Hey everybody, Coach Brad here again. I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about my presentation for the IYCA's Live Summit, November 18th and 19th. Again, November 18th is all about youth sports performance. We got great presenters, Dave Gleason, Evan Ozar, Matt Ibrahim, Jim Cabasso, David Jack, and myself. And then on the next day, the 19th, we're talking all about fitness business. So as I talked about in the first video, we have 5 main learning outcomes. And that first outcome of my presentation, which is understanding KPIs for youth performance, was talking about the differences between biological age and training age. So I'm going to give a little bit of insight to these topics right now. The first things we need to really understand, and sometimes I think may be forgotten when we're coaching or we're designing programs, is there are really 3 ages we look at. Now, I mentioned biological age and training age, but what we often forget is that chronological age, right? Their actual year, okay? Their biological age is their maturation throughout those years, and then their training age is really their ability, okay, of what they can do within those age ranges, and whether they're at the ability of their peers, below their peers, or even above their peers. Okay, so now that we kind of got those little key definitions out of the way, you saw this image the first time I spoke about my topic, and I want to dive into it a little bit more. Now, you notice I put in another little graphic called the General Adaptation Syndrome. Okay, this one in particular was taken from Enderleit, okay, which is the gas syndrome from Hans Seeley is a very well-known graph that takes a look at how the body's responding to exercise. And you might be thinking, how does this really tie into those ages I mentioned, right? The chronological, the biological, and then the training. Well, everybody's going to adapt a little bit differently. And that's the reason why we have to know how old they are, how they've matured, and what have they done during that maturation phase. Much like when you're designing a program, you need to work back to front, right? We need to work from our end goal, and then we got to come up to a place where we need to start. And that usually goes with the assessments and taking a survey or some sort of talking to, or maybe it's a sit down with the parents and the child or the athlete themselves. But some way we're surveying where they are in terms of their abilities, their age, and then, of course, biologically speaking, how mature maybe the parents think they are. Maybe they're an early, early adapter to maturation, evolved early. Maybe they evolved in late. They're late in their maturity. Whatever the case may be, you really need to find a way to take this information or even get this information. Generally speaking, it's within a survey, or again, when you're sitting down with the parent and the athlete. So when you have all this information, how does this tie into strength and conditioning or programming overall? A couple factors. So we see the program here on the screen. We see some of the data we collected with some of our athletes. And then again, that general adaptation syndrome. So let's use what's called here on that left side, the baseline. And let's say we're using vertical jump. Now I mentioned I use vertical jump often as a readiness scale, and this is the reason why. So say that baseline is a 20-inch vertical from a 14-year-old soccer player, okay? We start going through some strength and conditioning. It could be as basic as wall sits, as complicated as squatting, and anywhere in between. But once we start adding load, you see that dip, okay? And that dip below the baseline is what's called an alarm phase. The body is going to shut down a little bit because it's going to be sore. It's going to be not feeling good. It's going to be trying to recover because you're adding stressors to the body, okay? That's the acute response, okay? It's accumulating all this stress on the system, which is not negative, okay? It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, okay? But we got a program based off of those ages we talked about because we can't stress it too much, and we got to know when we got to start pulling them out of the stress, okay? And that comes with good program design and understanding key performance indicators. So let's use the length of this program, 6 weeks. So let's say the dip happens for, say, the first 3 weeks, okay? Now, we're taking verticals every day. We're going to see a decline from that 20 inch vertical of up to 15, sometimes even 20%, meaning they might jump only 16 inches, maybe 14. Again, depends on a lot of factors of where they are with that biological age and training age. Okay, but as their body starts recovering or getting into the transmutation stage, okay, and starting this recovery process where those stressors aren't making them so sore anymore, or they're recovering, they're feeling better when they're coming to workouts. Again, they're not sore, they're pulling themselves out of that alarm phase with that good program design and the insurance of doing things outside your facility, whether it's proper nutrition, good sleep habits, all these things we talk about, right? Good things. We start pulling out. Now we're going to start seeing them get close to that baseline again, usually between 3 and 5 weeks, okay? And again, everybody adapts a little bit different. I'll go into that during my presentation. The cool thing is the body starts realizing, now we start getting that stress and we're starting to turn it to eustress, okay? We're starting to move up that chain. Now you're going to start seeing an increase in that vertical jump. Maybe it's 22 inches, maybe it's 23, maybe if it's even 20.5. And we'll discuss what these things mean in terms of maybe it's only 20.5, but they started at 20. They've been training for 6 weeks. What happened or what didn't happen? Okay, so we'll talk about that on November 18th when we're really diving into the topic of KPIs. But the real good thing to understand here is this alarm reaction. We're going to see a dip, then we're going to see them transmutate and respond to that, okay, and start building up some resistors into that system where that same load in week 1 and 2, whatever load that may be, does not affect the system as much. They need more, okay, to elicit the same response, okay? Now, in all of this, what could happen, we don't see it often, and we'll talk about overreaching and overtraining, whether it's functional or non-functional, is sometimes they stay in that alarm phase a little bit too long. We'll talk about how to get them out of that. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight to one of my first learning objectives is understanding biological age and training age, and I threw in a little bit of the third one with chronological age. I look forward to seeing everybody virtually November 18th and hopefully November 19th as well, 2023 for the IYCA Virtual Summit. Click the link below and we'll see you there. Have a great day.